Warning: this video might give you a glimpse into the academic study of Japanese video games and gaming culture. You are also at risk of feeling compelled to contribute your own knowledge of Japanese games down in the comments below, resulting in a deeper understanding of the subject for you and others. Viewer discretion is advised. Hello everyone, I'm Nuke from Birds of Play, and in this video I want to talk very briefly about the role of allegory and the limits of allegory in JRPGs as a small part of an ongoing research project that I'm hoping some of you may be able to contribute to by sharing your knowledge of the JRPG genre with me down in the comments below. This video is based on a short presentation I did at this year's Replaying Japan, which is an academic conference dedicated to the study of Japanese games and gaming culture. I got a lot of interesting and provocative feedback from fellow scholars during the conference, but now I turn to all of you, because as anyone who has spent any real time exploring and participating in the JRPG fandom knows, there is a deep pool of knowledge there that consists of a lot of players that have not only played JRPGs extensively, but also spent a lot of time analyzing their own experiences, and I think that ignoring this great resource would be a real waste. So don't let me down. If you are a JRPG enthusiast, you might be happy to hear that the study of JRPGs is steadily becoming more and more established, just like the academic study of Japanese games and video games in general is. As such, we are invited to think critically not only about Japanese games and gaming culture in and of itself, but also about how we think about it and what we should think about. One possible area of interest that might be a bit underdeveloped at the moment is the study of authorial intent, meaning how the intentions of authors or developers shape the production of games and how we interpret them. If you have a background in literary theory, you might be asking yourself why something like that would matter. After all, isn't the author dead? Well, yes, the author is dead, but just like with Nietzsche's Death of God, the real implication is not that the author is completely irrelevant, but rather that the author no longer occupies a privileged or central position when it comes to interpreting any given text. We must therefore define in what way authorial intent might be of interest at any given time, and in my case, I am interested in examining in what way Japanese game developers are willing and able to mark their games as explicitly Japanese. This is where the concept of allegory comes in, because at least insofar as the concept is applicable, allegories are a very interesting literary device that gives us a chance to engage with authorial intent. Allegories also give us a chance to look at how uniquely Japanese commentary might manifest itself indirectly in games where Japan isn't the literal setting of the game. So my interest in this case is not allegory in and of itself, but rather to examine to what extent the concept of allegory might be suitable to the study of JRPGs. But my sort of tentative conclusion is actually that allegory isn't a very common literary device in most JRPGs, yet at the same time there is a great temptation to think of them as allegorical. And this is a problem because it might make it more difficult for us to ascertain authorial intent in the rare cases we do have something to build such an analysis on. Just to give you an example of how the concept of allegory might be problematic, we can take a look at J.R.R. Tolkien and the Lord of the Rings series, which many see as an allegory for the Second World War. But in the foreword of Fellowship of the Ring, the first book in the series, Tolkien denies any such intention when he writes, "I cordially dislike allegory in all its manifestations, and always have done so since I grew old and wary enough to detect its presence. I much prefer history, true or feigned, with its varied applicability to the thought and experience of readers. I think that many confuse applicability with allegory, but the one resides in the freedom of the reader and the other in the purposed domination of the author." So Tolkien doesn't deny that his work as an author is greatly influenced by his own experiences and the world he grew up in, but there is a great difference between drawing from one's experiences and actively commenting on them in the form of allegory, because allegory is a very deliberate literary device that relies on the reader to unravel the codified message left by the author. Now, jumping back to JRPGs, I just want to give a short example from Final Fantasy X, because there is a great temptation to think of Sin, the big monster that continually wreaks havoc upon Spira, as a part of an allegory for the devastating power of nuclear energy. Mass devastation being a very common trope in Japanese media. But the problem, as I see it, with referring to sin as an allegory rather than just a manifestation of Japanese cultural memory, is that by doing so, we are not only drawing parallels between sin and Japan's nuclear history, but also attributing a sort of commentary or criticism to the authors. In the case of sin, we do have other sources to draw on when it comes to authorial intent, and we need to be careful not to overlook them in favor of conflating the reproduction of Japanese cultural memory with the intention of the authors. For example, an early concept for the game depicted a world wherein everyone died at the age of 17, everyone in the world being joined together by this communal tragedy. In this sense, any similarity between nuclear armaments and sin, the monster that replaced the original tragedy, might alternatively be described as a manifestation of the more general concept of shared tragedy based on Japan's history, instead of being conceptualized as a deliberate and meaningful allegory by the authors of the game. In addition to this, Yoshinori Kitase, the producer of the game, has gone on record to note that the inspiration for sin wasn't nuclear power, but rather the constant threat of natural disaster Japan faces. But even that doesn't make it an allegory, since it appears to only be a reference point and not an extended metaphor intended to comment or criticize natural disasters or how they are handled in Japan or elsewhere. So those are my 2 cents at the moment, but now I'm curious whether you're familiar with any JRPGs that make use of allegory, or just JRPGs that people often view as allegorical, even though their status as such is questionable. Do you wish JRPGs were more allegorical, with authors and developers spending more energy commentating on real-life events, history, politics, or anything else outside of the games themselves? Let me know down in the comments below. If you made it this far, you might consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. It's a small channel, so every little bit helps. And I'm sure that the relatively gigantic size of your helping hand, if you choose to like the video, click that bell, or press that subscribe button, will make you feel extra special. But anyway, thanks for watching. Now for some bird sounds.